The moment my modeling agency mother saw the IRS agents walking into her office during her annual client showcase, her face went white. When she looked across the room and saw me standing there with the lead investigator, she finally understood. But what she whispered next, "You're just like me now," made me realize this war had been 17 years in the making. Before I tell you how I destroyed a former beauty queen's empire, let me start from the beginning. Because what my mother did to me, what she did to every boy I ever cared about, it's going to make you sick. But what I did to her? Well, let's just say karma needed a little help. Before we dive into this incredible story, I need your help. This channel is brand new and I'm putting my heart and soul into bringing you the most compelling real-life stories. If you're enjoying this content, hitting that subscribe button, giving this video a like, and sharing it would mean the absolute world to me. It's completely free and helps me keep creating these stories for you. And trust me, you're going to want to comment on this one. Now let's get into what happened. I'm Sophia. I'm 18 now, and I'm using a throwaway account for obvious legal reasons. I need to get this off my chest, because what I did might seem extreme to some people. But when you hear the whole story, I think you'll understand why I had no choice. My mother is Carmen Rodriguez. She was a beauty queen 2001. 23 years later, she's still living like she's wearing that crown. And that obsession with staying relevant? It nearly destroyed my entire life. Growing up, our house in Dallas looked like a museum dedicated to Carmen's glory days. Pageant photos everywhere. Her crown in a glass case in the living room. The Miss Texas sash framed above the fireplace. My dad used to joke that he married a beauty queen but lived with a woman who couldn't let go of being 19. When I was 11, Dad finally had enough. The divorce was brutal. Not because of money or custody, but because Carmen couldn't handle the idea that someone was choosing to leave her. In her mind, she was still that stunning 19-year-old who won Miss Texas. Reality? She was 34, and her husband was walking away. That's when everything changed. Carmen decided she was going to prove she still had it. She started Elite Talent Agency, supposedly to help young people break into modeling and acting. But really? It was her hunting ground. Our house became a revolving door of young male models, aspiring actors, fitness influencers. All between 18 and 22. All gorgeous. All completely clueless about what they were walking into. I was only 12 when this started, so I didn't understand what was happening. I just knew that suddenly, my mom was never around for my school events, but she was always available for these business meetings that happened at expensive restaurants after 9 p.m. The pattern started when I turned 14 and got my first boyfriend. Tyler was 15, a sweet soccer player from my freshman class. Cute, funny, treated me like I was the most important person in the world. We'd been dating for 3 months when Carmen met him at homecoming. I still remember that night. Tyler picked me up in his mom's Honda, wearing a rented tux that was slightly too big. He brought me a corsage that probably cost him 2 weeks of allowance. We were so innocent, so happy. Carmen insisted on taking pictures. Just a few with Mom, she said, wearing a dress that was definitely too young for her. But as she posed with us, I watched her studying Tyler. The way her eyes moved over his face, his shoulders. Like she was cataloging him. 2 days later, she cornered him after soccer practice. "Tyler, honey, has anyone ever told you that you have incredible bone structure?" she said, appearing at the fence where I always waited for him. "I run a talent agency, and I think you could have a real future in modeling." I should have seen the red flags immediately. But I was 14 and stupid, and I thought my mom was just being supportive of my relationship for once. The private photo shoot happened that weekend. Carmen convinced Tyler's parents it was a professional portfolio session that could help him get college scholarships. She rented a photography studio downtown, hired a real photographer, made it look completely legitimate. What she didn't mention was that after the official shots, she'd asked Tyler to stay for a few casual photos. Just her, him, and her iPhone. I found them at the agency 3 weeks later. I'd come by after school to surprise Carmen with cookies I'd baked for her birthday. The front door was locked, but I had a key. I found them in the back office. Carmen was wearing my favorite sundress, the yellow one with tiny flowers that I'd been looking for all week. Tyler was shirtless, posing for her phone camera. When they saw me, Tyler went red and started grabbing for his shirt. Carmen didn't even look embarrassed. She just smiled and said, "Honey, Tyler and I were working on his portfolio. You don't understand the modeling industry." Tyler never talked to me at school again. When I tried to confront him, he just looked uncomfortable and mumbled something about how Carmen understood his artistic vision better than I did. 2 months later, I saw him posting on Instagram, thanking Carmen for believing in his dreams and helping launch his modeling career. The photos were professionally shot. He looked incredible. And he was completely out of my reach. That should have been my wake-up call. But I was 15 and thought maybe it really was just business. Maybe I was being jealous and immature. Then came Brandon. Brandon was 16, a year older than me, and everything Tyler wasn't. Where Tyler was athletic and outgoing, Brandon was artistic and sensitive. He played guitar, wrote songs, spent his weekends at open mic nights at coffee shops. I fell hard. Carmen's approach was different this time. More sophisticated. "Sophia, your boyfriend is incredibly talented," she said one night after Brandon had been over for dinner. "I've been thinking I have connections in the music industry. I could help him record a demo." Before I could object, she'd already made the arrangements. Professional recording studio, session musicians, the works. She told Brandon it was an investment in his future, that she saw something special in him. The recording sessions happened after school, while I was at my part-time job at the mall. Carmen would pick Brandon up, take him to the studio, then out to dinner afterward to discuss his musical direction. "Your mom is amazing," Brandon told me one night as we sat in his car outside my house. "She really gets my music. She understands what I'm trying to express." I felt this sick twist in my stomach. "What do you mean, she gets it?" "She's been taking me to these venues around town, introducing me to people. She says I have something special, something mature beyond my years." The sick feeling got worse. "Brandon, you know she used to be Miss Texas, right? She's really good at making people feel special." He looked at me like I'd slapped him. "Are you saying your mom is lying to me?" "God, Sophia, why can't you just be happy that someone believes in me?" I tried to explain, but it came out all wrong. I sounded jealous, petty, like the insecure teenager Carmen was probably telling him I was. The end came 2 months later. Brandon posted on Instagram a professional headshot, a link to his demo on Spotify, and a caption thanking Carmen Rodriguez of Elite Talent Agency for launching his music career and believing in his artistic vision. In the comments, Carmen had written, "So proud of this incredible young man. True artists are rare. #talent scout, #music industry, #proud manager." Brandon broke up with me the next day. Said he needed to focus on his music career, that he was outgrowing high school relationships. I was devastated. But I was also starting to see the pattern. Then came Ethan, and that's when I knew for sure that my mother was a predator. Ethan was my first real love. I was 17, he was 18, and we'd been together for 8 months. We were planning to go to junior prom together. I'd already bought my dress, and we talked about trying to go to the same college. Carmen's approach with Ethan was her most elaborate yet. "Sophia, I've been thinking," she said one evening in March, about 6 weeks before prom. "Ethan has such a great look. Have you ever considered that he could be an actor?" I immediately felt that familiar dread. "Mom, no. Please just leave this one alone." She looked hurt. "Honey, I'm just thinking about his future. I have a connection at a local commercial casting agency. They're looking for young men for a car dealership commercial. It could be great experience for him." I begged her not to get involved. I literally got on my knees in our kitchen and begged her to let me have this one relationship without her interference. She hugged me and promised she wouldn't do anything without my permission. 2 weeks later, Ethan came to me with exciting news. Carmen had reached out to him privately about a commercial opportunity. A local car dealership was casting for a major TV commercial, and she thought he'd be perfect. "Your mom is looking out for me," he said, his eyes shining with excitement. "She says this could lead to bigger opportunities." The audition was scheduled for the weekend in Austin, about 3 hours away. Carmen offered to drive him, to provide professional support and make sure he didn't get taken advantage of by the industry. They left Friday afternoon and came back Sunday night. Monday at school, Ethan was different. Distant. When I asked about the audition, he just said it went well and that Carmen was an amazing mentor. That evening, I was looking for my prom boutonniere receipt in my dresser when I found something that made my blood freeze. Ethan's boutonniere. The one he was supposed to wear to prom with me. It was sitting in Carmen's bedroom dresser, next to her jewelry box. I confronted her immediately. "Why do you have Ethan's boutonniere?" She didn't even try to lie. "Oh, honey, Ethan and I picked that up while we were in Austin. He wanted to make sure it matched your dress perfectly. Isn't that sweet?" But her eyes were different. Triumphant. Like she was daring me to figure out what had really happened. Ethan broke up with me 2 days before prom. Said he'd been thinking about his future, that he needed to focus on his career opportunities. That Carmen had helped him realize he was ready for more mature relationships. I didn't go to prom. I spent that night in my room, crying and finally accepting the truth I'd been fighting for 3 years. My mother was systematically destroying my relationships because she couldn't handle the idea that I was young and she wasn't. But it was Kevin who made me realize this wasn't just about stealing boyfriends. This was about stealing my entire future. Kevin was different from the others. He was 18, a senior when I was a junior. Star swimmer with a full scholarship to UT. And he was gorgeous, like, legitimately model gorgeous. 6'2", broad shoulders, the kind of smile that made girls stop in the hallway to stare. But what made Kevin special wasn't his looks. It was how he treated me. Like I was his equal. Like my thoughts mattered. We spent hours talking about everything: books, movies, our plans for college. He wanted to study business, maybe go into sports management. I was thinking about psychology, maybe specializing in family therapy. We'd been together for 4 months when I made the mistake of bringing him home for dinner. Carmen's reaction was immediate and terrifying. She didn't even try to hide her interest. She asked Kevin about his workout routine, his diet, his future goals in fitness modeling. She kept touching his arm when she talked to him, complimenting his incredible physique. After dinner, as Kevin was leaving, Carmen cornered me in the kitchen. "Sophia, honey, you know Kevin could have a real future in fitness modeling, right? That body, that face, he could be making serious money." "Mom, no. Please. I'm begging you. Kevin is different. We're talking about going to the same college. We have real plans." She smiled at me with that patronizing look I'd learned to hate. "Sweetie, boys like Kevin don't end up with girls like you long term. He's going to figure out what he's worth eventually. Wouldn't you rather I help him get there than some stranger who might take advantage of him?" I felt sick. "What do you mean, girls like me? You're lovely, honey, but you're normal. Kevin is exceptional. He needs someone who understands his potential." That night, I knew I had to be smarter. I'd learned from the previous disasters. So I made Kevin promise me that if Carmen ever approached him about modeling or acting, he'd tell me immediately. He promised. He looked me right in the eyes and swore he'd never let Carmen come between us. 2 weeks later, Carmen made her move. She'd researched everything about Kevin. His swim times, his scholarship details, his family's financial situation. She knew his parents were struggling to pay for his college expenses beyond tuition. She knew he'd been working part-time at a gym to help with costs. Her approach was brilliant and evil. She showed up at his gym with a fake fitness magazine photographer. They'd been scouting locations and happened to see Kevin working out. Would he be interested in a quick photo shoot? It could lead to fitness modeling opportunities that would pay much better than his current job. Kevin texted me about it that night. He was excited but cautious. "Your mom is here with some photographer guy. They want to do a photo shoot. Should I be worried?" I told him to run. I begged him to leave immediately. But Carmen was ready for my interference. She told Kevin that I'd been struggling with jealousy issues, that I'd sabotaged his previous opportunities because I was insecure about his success. The photo shoot happened that weekend. Just professional fitness shots, Carmen assured him. Nothing inappropriate. But after the photographer left, Carmen suggested they go to dinner to discuss career strategy. then drinks to celebrate his amazing shots, then a walk to talk about his unlimited potential. I didn't find out about the dinner until 3 days later when Kevin started acting distant. When I pressed him about it, he finally admitted that Carmen had been mentoring him about fitness modeling opportunities. "She's helping me see possibilities I never considered," he said. "She thinks I could make enough money modeling to pay for graduate school." "Kevin, she's done this before. With my other boyfriends. This isn't about your career." He got angry. Actually angry. "God, Sophia, why can't you just be supportive? Your mom believes in me. She sees my potential. Why does that threaten you so much?" I tried to tell him about Tyler, Brandon, Ethan. But Carmen had already poisoned the well. She told him I had a pattern of sabotaging his relationships because I was emotionally unstable and afraid of abandonment. The end came 2 weeks later. I found Kevin's phone on his dresser when I was at his house, and I saw the text messages. Pages and pages of texts from Carmen. Photos of expensive fitness modeling contracts. Screenshots of social media posts from successful male models. And then, personal messages. "You're so much more mature than most boys your age. I can see why you're frustrated with high school drama. You deserve someone who appreciates your sophistication." And Kevin's responses, "Thank you for believing in me. You really understand what I want out of life. I've never had someone take my goals this seriously." When I confronted him, he didn't even try to deny it. He just looked uncomfortable and said, "Sophia, I think we want different things. You're focused on high school stuff, and I'm trying to build a future." He broke up with me that night. 2 days later, his Instagram was full of professional fitness photos with tags like #fitnessmodel, #elite-talent-agency, #living-my-dreams. Carmen had won again. But this time, I was done crying. That night, I sat in my room and really looked at what had happened. 4 boyfriends. 4 different approaches. But the same result every time. Carmen wasn't just stealing my boyfriends. She was stealing my youth. My confidence. My ability to trust anyone who said they cared about me. But she'd made one mistake. She'd gotten sloppy with Kevin. She'd left evidence. If you're finding this story as fascinating as I hoped you would, please consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and sharing this with someone who needs to hear it. And definitely comment below because I want to know what you would have done in this situation. It really helps me know I'm on the right track with this content. The next morning, I started investigating my own mother. I began by following her. I'd skip last period and tail her car to her business meetings. What I found was sickening. Carmen wasn't just running elite talent agency. She was running an elaborate scheme to fund her lifestyle by preying on young men and their families. The professional photo shoots she offered? She was charging families thousands of dollars for sessions with photographers who were either fake or severely overcharging. The demo recordings for aspiring musicians? Same thing. She was taking huge percentages from kids who thought they were getting legitimate industry opportunities. But the financial crimes were just the beginning. I started paying attention to Carmen's home office, the room she always kept locked. One day, when she was at a hair appointment, I picked the lock with a bobby pin. What I found inside made me physically sick. Manila folders. Dozens of them. Each one labeled with a boy's name and organized by year. Inside each folder, printed Facebook photos, personality assessments written in Carmen's handwriting, detailed seduction strategies, and timelines of how she planned to approach each target. Tyler's folder had notes like, athletic type, responds to praise about physical achievements. Mother works 2 jobs, father absent, hungry for older female attention. Approach through professional opportunities. Brandon's folder, artistic, sensitive, feels misunderstood. Both parents present but dismissive of his music. Needs someone who validates his creative vision. Use industry connections as bait. Ethan's folder was the most detailed. 8-month relationship with S. Genuine feelings involved. More challenging target. Will need to create doubt about S's maturity level. Emphasize his potential. Make him feel like he's outgrowing her. Kevin's folder was still being updated. Carmen's most recent note, dated just 3 days earlier, responding well to fitness industry opportunities. Parents struggling financially use expensive gifts and experiences to create obligation. S becoming suspicious, accelerate timeline. But the worst part? At the back of each folder were photos. Not just the professional shots from the auditions. Personal photos. Casual selfies the boys had sent her. Screenshots of their social media posts. Pictures she'd taken secretly during their business dinners. I photographed everything with my phone, my hands shaking as I documented my mother's systematic predatory behavior. But I needed help. I couldn't take down Carmen alone. I started researching local journalists who covered business corruption. That's when I found Jessica Martinez, an investigative blogger who specialized in exposing fraudulent talent agencies and modeling scams. Jessica's blog was full of stories about agencies that preyed on young people and their families' dreams. She'd exposed several Dallas area scams, and her work had led to actual legal consequences. I sent her an anonymous email with some of the photos from Carmen's files, along with a brief explanation of what was happening. She responded within 2 hours. This is exactly the kind of story I've been looking for. Can we meet? We met at a coffee shop near my school. Jessica was in her early 30s, professional but approachable. She listened to my entire story without interrupting, taking careful notes. Sophia, what your mother is doing isn't just ethically wrong, it's probably illegal, she said. The financial exploitation alone could be fraud. And the predatory behavior toward minors, there could be serious criminal charges. But how do we prove it? It's not like she's confessing to her crimes on camera. Jessica smiled. Actually, that's exactly what we need. And I have an idea. Her plan was brilliant and terrifying. We were going to create the perfect trap. A fake boyfriend who would be so irresistible to Carmen that she'd document her entire predatory process for us. Noah Williams, Jessica said, sliding a folder across the table. College athlete, aspiring actor, absolutely gorgeous, and completely fictional. She'd created an entire backstory using photos of her cousin from California who'd agreed to help. Noah was 19, a sophomore at a small college in Oregon, studying business with dreams of acting. Perfect grades, perfect looks, perfect target for Carmen's scheme. But Noah had one advantage the other boys didn't. He wasn't real, and we were controlling every interaction. Over the next 2 weeks, I carefully built Noah's social media presence. Instagram full of workout photos and college life posts. Facebook with carefully crafted family photos. TikTok videos of him practicing monologues for acting class. The key was making him seem slightly out of reach. Not local, but visiting Dallas soon to look at transfer schools. Interested in acting but not desperate. Confident but not arrogant. When Noah's profiles were perfect, I started phase 2. I began casually mentioning him to Carmen. Oh, I've been talking to this guy online. He's visiting Dallas next month to look at SMU. Just little comments here and there. Carmen's interest was immediate. What's he studying? What does he look like? I showed her Noah's Instagram, watching her eyes light up as she scrolled through the photos. He's very photogenic, she said, trying to sound casual. Is he interested in acting at all? Actually, yeah. He's been doing some community theater at his college. He's thinking about maybe trying to get an agent when he moves here. The hook was set. Within 3 days, Carmen was asking more detailed questions. What was Noah's major? When exactly was he visiting? Did he have representation yet? You know, Sophia, if Noah is serious about acting, I could probably help him make some connections when he's in town. I pretended to be reluctant. I don't know, Mom. I don't really want to mix my dating life with your business. Of course, honey. I just hate to see talented young people miss opportunities. But I could see the wheels turning. Carmen was already planning her approach. The brilliant part of Jessica's plan was that we were controlling both sides of the conversation. When Carmen inevitably reached out to Noah directly, Jessica would be the one responding, carefully following a script we'd developed. Noah's personality was designed to push all of Carmen's buttons. He was slightly insecure about his small-town background, eager to learn about the entertainment industry, grateful for any guidance from someone with Carmen's experience and expertise. The first contact came exactly when we'd predicted. Carmen found Noah's Instagram through my account and sent him a direct message. Hi Noah. I'm Sophia's mother, Carmen Rodriguez. She mentioned you might be interested in acting opportunities in Dallas. I run a talent agency here and would love to chat with you about the industry when you're in town. Looking forward to meeting you. Jessica, responding as Noah, played it perfectly. Hi Ms. Rodriguez. Sophia has told me so much about your agency. I would love to learn from someone with your experience. I'll be in Dallas next month and would really appreciate any advice you could offer. Carmen's response was immediate and enthusiastic. She wanted to schedule a video call to get to know him better and assess his potential. This was the crucial moment. Jessica had arranged for her cousin in California to do the video call, with Jessica coaching him through an earpiece. We'd practiced the conversation dozens of times. The call was scheduled for a Friday evening. I made sure to be studying at the library so Carmen would have privacy to really let her guard down. According to the plan, Noah would be charming but slightly naive, grateful for Carmen's attention, eager for her guidance, and just vulnerable enough to make her feel powerful. The call lasted 2 hours. Afterward, Carmen was practically glowing. Sophia, Noah is incredible. Such a sweet boy, and he has real potential. I'm going to help him put together a portfolio when he's in town. That's nice of you, Mom. He's very mature for his age. Much more sophisticated than most boys his year in college. There it was. The same language she'd used about Tyler, Brandon, Ethan, and Kevin. Over the next week, Carmen's texts to Noah became increasingly frequent and personal. Jessica shared them all with me, and the pattern was exactly what we'd expected. Professional advice quickly became personal interest. You have such an interesting perspective on life. I can tell you're different from other boys your age. I think you're going to go far in this industry. Carmen was falling for her own game, and we were documenting every move. Stories like this take incredible courage to share, and I want to bring you more of them. If you're invested in seeing how this turns out, subscribing, liking, and sharing this video tells me you want more content like this. Plus, you'll never miss the ending of these wild stories. And seriously, the comments on these videos are always amazing. Let me know what you think so far. By the time Carmen's annual client showcase arrived in May, we had everything we needed. The showcase was Carmen's biggest event of the year. She rented the ballroom at the Adolphus Hotel downtown, invited all her current clients, potential investors, and local entertainment industry contacts. It was her chance to prove that elite talent agency was a serious business. It was also the perfect setting for her complete and public humiliation. Carmen had been planning Noah's surprise visit for weeks. She'd told everyone at the agency about this incredible young talent she'd discovered, this rising star who was going to be the centerpiece of her showcase. He's flying in just for this event, she told her assistant. I want everything to be perfect. She'd bought Noah a plane ticket from Oregon to Dallas, booked him a room at a luxury hotel, planned a full weekend of industry introductions and professional development. What she didn't know was that Jessica had been coordinating with the IRS fraud investigation unit for 3 weeks. Remember all those business deductions Carmen had been claiming? The expensive dinners, the luxury hotel rooms, the professional photo shoots? The IRS had been building a case against Elite Talent Agency for months, and Jessica's evidence had given them everything they needed for search warrants. The showcase was scheduled to start at 7 p.m. on a Friday night. Carmen had spent the entire day setting up, making sure everything was perfect for Noah's big introduction. At 6:45, as guests were arriving and Carmen was putting the finishing touches on the event, 3 IRS agents walked into the ballroom. I was standing near the registration table, wearing my black dress and my biggest smile, when Agent Sarah Chin approached Carmen. Carmen Rodriguez? I'm Agent Chin with the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. We have a warrant to search your business premises and personal assets related to tax fraud allegations. Carmen's face went white. She looked around the room at all her guests, her clients, her potential investors, and then her eyes found mine. That's when I stepped forward. Mom, I'd like you to meet Jessica Martinez. She's the investigative journalist who's been documenting your business practices for the past 2 months. Carmen's confusion was beautiful to watch. Sophia, what are you talking about? What journalist? Jessica approached with a warm smile. Ms. Rodriguez, I'm Jessica Martinez from Dallas Business Weekly. I've been investigating fraudulent talent agencies, and your business practices have been fascinating. I don't understand. What fraud? My business is completely legitimate. Agent Chin opened her folder. Ms. Rodriguez, we have evidence of substantial personal expenses being claimed as business deductions. Expensive dinners, luxury travel, hotel rooms, all claimed as client entertainment when the recipients were minors involved in personal relationships with you. Carmen looked desperately around the room. Her guests were starting to whisper, phones were coming out, and she was realizing that her biggest professional moment was becoming her biggest nightmare. This is ridiculous. Sophia, tell them this is some kind of mistake. That's when I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app. Actually, Mom, would you like to hear some of the conversations I've been recording during our family dinners? The ones where you bragged about manipulating Tyler, Brandon, Ethan, and Kevin. I pressed play. Carmen's voice filled the ballroom speakers. Boys that age are so easy to manipulate. You just have to make them feel special, more mature than they really are. Sophia never understood that I was doing her a favor. Those relationships were never going to last anyway. The room went dead silent. Carmen lunged for my phone, but Agent Chin stepped between us. Ms. Rodriguez, we also need to discuss the fictional Noah Williams. You've purchased airline tickets, hotel accommodations, and meal reservations for someone who doesn't exist. That's fraud. Carmen's eyes went wide with realization. Noah isn't real. Jessica held up her phone. I've been Noah for the past 2 months. Every text message, every video call, every business discussion, that was me documenting your predatory behavior. But I talked to him. I saw him on video. That was my cousin in California, following a script we'd prepared based on your previous patterns with Sophia's boyfriends. Carmen's legs gave out. She actually collapsed into a nearby chair, staring at us in shock. Agent Chin continued reading from her file. We have records showing you've defrauded client families of over $180,000 in fake photography fees, phony recording sessions, and non-existent industry connections. You've also claimed personal expenses totaling $240,000 as business deductions over the past 3 years. The room was buzzing now. Guests were filming everything, posting to social media, calling friends. Carmen's showcase had become a public spectacle. This is impossible, Carmen whispered. Sophia, you're my daughter. How could you do this to me? That's when I leaned down and spoke directly into her ear, loud enough for everyone to hear. The same way you destroyed every relationship I've ever had. Systematically, carefully, and with absolutely no remorse. Agent Chin placed Carmen under arrest for tax fraud, wire fraud, and contributing to the delinquency of minors. As they led her away in handcuffs, Carmen looked back at me one last time. You're just like me now, she said, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom. For a moment, her words hit me like a physical blow. Was I just like her? Had I become the manipulator, the predator, the person who destroyed others for my own satisfaction? But then I looked around the room and saw Tyler's older sister, who'd come to witness Carmen's downfall. I saw the parents of other boys Carmen had exploited, finally getting the justice they'd been denied. I saw Jessica, whose investigation would protect countless other families from similar scams. No, Mom, I said loud enough for everyone to hear. You destroyed people to feed your ego. I exposed a predator to protect others. We're nothing alike. If you're as shocked by this mother's reaction as I was living through it, you're definitely part of our community. Subscribe to join others who appreciate these incredible real-life stories, and let me know in the comments what you would have done in this situation. And please, hit that like button and share this video as stories like this need to be heard. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Elite Talent Agency was shut down by the state licensing board within 48 hours. Carmen's assets were frozen pending the outcome of her trial. The luxury Dallas townhouse, the expensive car, the designer clothes, all of it seized as potential proceeds from fraud. Local news picked up the story immediately. "Former Miss Texas arrested for talent agency fraud" was the headline on every Dallas news website. The video of Carmen being arrested went viral on TikTok, with thousands of comments from people sharing their own stories of predatory talent agencies. But the legal consequences were just the beginning. Tyler reached out to me 3 days after Carmen's arrest. I hadn't heard from him in over 2 years. "Sophia, I saw the news about your mom. I wanted to call and I'm sorry. I was 15 and stupid, and I thought she actually cared about my future. I realize now that she was just using me to hurt you." Brandon called the next week. I felt so guilty about what happened between us. I knew something was wrong, but I was too caught up in the attention to see it clearly. "Your mom convinced me that you were just jealous, that you didn't support my dreams." I was an idiot. Even Ethan reached out, though his message was harder to read. "I've been in therapy for 2 years trying to understand what happened with your mom. My therapist says I was groomed. I don't know how to apologize for that, but I want you to know that I never stopped caring about you. I was just confused and manipulated." Kevin's response was the most painful and the most healing. He showed up at my house 2 weeks after the arrest, looking older and more serious than I remembered. "I owe you the biggest apology of my life," he said when I answered the door. I was so desperate to believe that someone saw potential in me that I ignored every red flag. "Your mom, she made me feel like I was special, like I was destined for something bigger. And she convinced me that you were holding me back." We sat on my front porch and talked for 3 hours. He told me about the expensive dinners, the luxury hotel rooms, the constant validation that made him feel like he was the most important person in the world. She would tell me I was too mature for high school relationships, that I needed someone who understood my ambition. And then she'd book us these incredible experiences, expensive restaurants, VIP events, professional photo shoots. I felt like I was living in a movie. "Kevin, did anything physical happen?" He was quiet for a long time. She tried. "The night before I broke up with you, we were at this fancy steakhouse downtown, and she kept buying me drinks even though I was underage. She said it was normal in the entertainment industry, that I needed to get comfortable with industry events. When she drove me home, she pulled over in this parking lot and she kissed me. My heart broke for him. For all of them. I pulled away and told her I had a girlfriend, and she laughed. She said you and I were just playing house, that real relationships were about supporting each other's dreams. She said if I really cared about you, I'd let you find someone more suited to her level of ambition. So you broke up with me to protect me?" "I broke up with you because I was 17 and she convinced me that I was too good for you." "God, Sophia, I'm so sorry. I was an arrogant kid who got manipulated by a predator, and I took it out on you." Kevin's honesty was devastating and healing at the same time. I realized that Carmen hadn't just hurt me, she'd damaged every single person she'd touched. The trial began 6 months later. Carmen pled not guilty to all charges, claiming that her business practices were standard in the talent industry and that her relationships with the boys were mentorships that had been misinterpreted. Her defense attorney tried to paint me as a vindictive daughter who'd fabricated evidence out of jealousy. But Jessica's investigation had been thorough, and the IRS had found evidence of fraud going back 5 years. The prosecution called Tyler, Brandon, and Kevin to testify about their experiences with Carmen. Watching them on the witness stand, describing how she'd manipulated them and their families, was both heartbreaking and empowering. Tyler's testimony was particularly powerful. She made me feel like I was special, like I had potential that nobody else could see. When she started paying attention to me, I felt like the most important person in the world. But looking back, I realized she was grooming me to turn against my girlfriend, her own daughter. Carmen's reaction during the testimony was telling. She showed no remorse, no understanding of the damage she'd caused. Instead, she sat at the defense table looking frustrated and angry, like she was the victim of some great injustice. When it was my turn to testify, I was nervous but ready. My mother systematically destroyed every relationship I had because she couldn't handle the idea that I was young and she wasn't, I said, looking directly at her. She used her business as a cover to prey on teenage boys, exploiting their dreams and their families' financial struggles. She didn't just steal my boyfriends, she stole my ability to trust anyone who said they cared about me. Carmen's attorney tried to discredit me during cross-examination, suggesting that I was a troubled teenager who'd concocted an elaborate revenge scheme. Isn't it true that you created an entirely fictional person to entrap your mother? Yes, I said. I created Noah Williams to document my mother's predatory behavior. Because every time a real boy got involved with her, he got hurt. Noah was the only way to expose her pattern without creating another victim. So you admit to lying and manipulation. I admit to protecting future victims from a predator who happened to be my mother. The jury deliberated for 3 days. When they returned with guilty verdicts on all counts, Carmen showed no emotion. She just sat there staring straight ahead, like she couldn't believe this was really happening to her. The judge sentenced her to 3 years in federal prison, 5 years of probation, and a lifetime ban from operating any talent or modeling agency. She was also ordered to pay restitution to the families she'd defrauded, totaling over $400,000. As they led her away, Carmen looked at me one last time. I hope you're happy, she said. You destroyed your own mother. No, I replied. I stopped you from destroying anyone else. The months after the trial were difficult, but healing. I started therapy with Dr. Amanda Foster, a psychologist who specialized in family trauma and psychological abuse. What your mother did was a form of emotional terrorism, Dr. Foster explained during one of our early sessions. She systematically undermined your relationships to maintain control over you and to feed her own narcissistic needs. The fact that you were able to recognize the pattern and stop it shows incredible strength. But sometimes I wonder if I went too far. If there was another way to handle it. Sophia, you tried talking to her. You tried setting boundaries. You begged her to stop. When someone is actively harming you and others, sometimes legal intervention is the only option. I started at UT that fall, majoring in psychology with a focus on family systems and trauma therapy. My goal is to help other people recognize and escape manipulative relationships. Carmen was transferred to a federal facility in Oklahoma. I haven't visited her and I don't plan to. She's written me several letters, but I've left them unopened. My therapist says I'm not ready to engage with her yet and may never be. About a year after the trial, I got an unexpected call from Tyler. Sophia, I wanted to let you know I'm engaged. To someone amazing who actually loves me for who I am, not for what I could potentially become. Brandon started a YouTube channel about his music, and he's gained a real following based on his talent, not on fake industry connections. He sends me updates occasionally, always ending with "Thank you for saving us all from that situation." Kevin transferred to UT and is studying business management. We're not together, too much has happened for us to go back to what we had, but we're friends. Real friends, in a way we never could have been when we were 17. The most surprising development came 18 months after Carmen's sentencing. I got a call from a woman named Patricia Mills, who introduced herself as a victim's advocate. Sophia, we've had several other young women reach out to us after hearing about your mother's case. Their stories are remarkably similar, mothers or female relatives who systematically sabotage their relationships. Your case has given them courage to speak up. Patricia's organization started a support group for people who'd experienced this specific type of family abuse. I attend the monthly meetings, sharing my story and listening to others who've gone through similar experiences. It's heartbreaking how common this pattern is. Narcissistic mothers who can't handle their daughters' youth and independence. Women who see their own children as competition rather than as people to protect and nurture. But it's also empowering to know that by exposing Carmen, I've helped other people recognize and escape similar situations. Jessica Martinez's investigation led to a 3-part series about fraud in the Texas talent industry. Her work prompted new state regulations and oversight requirements for talent agencies. She won a local journalism award for the series, and we've stayed in touch. You know what I admire most about what you did? Jessica told me recently. You didn't just want revenge. You wanted justice. And there's a big difference. 2 years after Carmen's sentencing, I'm in a healthy relationship with someone who knew my whole story before we started dating. Marcus is a psychology major like me, and he understands the importance of trust and communication. When I told him about Carmen, about what she'd done to my previous relationships, he was quiet for a long time. "I'm so sorry that happened to you," he finally said. "And I'm grateful that you're strong enough to break that cycle." Sometimes I still have nightmares about Carmen. Dreams where she's back, charming and manipulative, convincing everyone around me that I'm the problem. But I wake up knowing that she's in prison, that her power to hurt people has been taken away. My relationship with my father has been complicated. He knew something was wrong during their marriage, but he didn't understand the extent of Carmen's manipulation until the trial. "I should have protected you better," he told me one day over coffee. "I knew your mother was obsessed with staying young, but I never imagined she'd hurt you the way she did. Dad, you couldn't have known. She was good at hiding it. But I should have paid more attention. I should have seen the pattern. We're working on rebuilding our relationship." He's in therapy too, trying to understand how he missed the signs of Carmen's predatory behavior. The hardest part of all this has been accepting that my mother is a predator. That the woman who gave birth to me, who raised me, who was supposed to protect me, was actually the biggest threat to my happiness and safety. But I've learned that DNA doesn't make someone family. Love, protection, and genuine care make someone family. I have a new family now. My father, who's learning to be present and protective. My therapist, who's teaching me to trust my instincts. My friends from the support group, who understand what I've been through. Marcus, who loves me without trying to change me or control me. And most importantly, I have myself. I have the knowledge that I'm strong enough to recognize manipulation, brave enough to fight back, and wise enough to protect others from the same harm. Carmen will be released from prison next year. I've already changed my phone number and made sure she doesn't have my address. My therapist and I have developed a safety plan in case she tries to contact me. But I'm not afraid of her anymore. She's just a sad, aging woman who destroyed her relationship with her own daughter because she couldn't accept that being young is temporary, but being a good person is forever. The cycle of abuse that Carmen tried to continue ends with me. I will never use my beauty or charm to manipulate others. I will never see other women as competition. And I will never, ever hurt someone I'm supposed to love. Thank you so much for staying until the end of this incredible journey. Stories like these show us the importance of recognizing manipulation and protecting ourselves and others from predators, even when they're family members. I have so many more powerful stories to share with you. If this story moved you, subscribing means everything to me and helps me continue bringing these important stories to light. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who might need to hear it, and definitely comment below with your thoughts. Hit that notification bell too, because trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. These stories matter, and your support helps me keep telling them. 3 years later, I'm studying to become a licensed family therapist. I want to help other people recognize the signs of manipulation and abuse, especially when it comes from people who are supposed to love them. Carmen taught me that some people will always choose their own needs over the well-being of others, even their own children. But she also taught me that I'm stronger than I ever imagined, and that speaking up for yourself and others is always worth it. To anyone watching this who sees themselves in my story, you deserve relationships built on respect and genuine care. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not manipulated for what you can provide. And you deserve to feel safe in your own family. And if you're dealing with a predator disguised as a parent, remember, DNA doesn't make someone family. Love does. Protection does. Genuine care does. Find your real family. Protect yourself. And never be afraid to speak your truth. Because sometimes, the only way to stop a predator is to expose them to the light.